Welcome everyone to No Forks Given. I'm Neha, and today I have with me Chef Mayank Ishtwal, who is the executive corporate chef at the Michelin-starred restaurant Musafir in Houston, and it's also opened a location in New York recently, right, Mayank?
Yes.
Mayank is also recognized by Condé Nast Traveler as one of the top 13 chefs bringing Indian cuisine to the world, but he has many more varied accomplishments that we'll talk about as we get chatting. Welcome to the podcast, Mayank.
Thank you, Neha. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast. I'm really looking forward to it. I know we have interacted in the past 100%. I think this is an opportunity for the audience to know more about Indian cuisine in general, the history of it, the geography. It'll be fun. Like I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
So the concept, as you know, is that we're talking about identity and then layering it with food as a metaphor for it, because I think it's a very relevant time to have that discussion. And when we talk about stereotypes, it exists in food as well. And you, among all your accomplishments, you're part chef, accomplished part chef, Ayurveda expert, as I learned, a very avid traveler, and you're also a food historian. So it's going to make this much more interesting. So I'm going to start from, where it all started. You are born and raised in Dehradun, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so Dehradun is a beautiful town in the foothills of the Himalayas in India. It's a little valley, and I grew up there as well. The difference was that I was in boarding school, and I could talk about the food there, but it was boarding school food. Why don't we start with you? Like, what was food like at home, and who influenced your interest in food and cooking?
Yeah. So food comes naturally to me. My father, I remember, was helping my uncle. He had a catering business, and food was like in the family in general, right? I remember, like, a very fond memory. The first thing I ever made was basically chutney that my grandmother was making on a
Yeah,
silbatta.
yeah.
This is the flavors were phenomenal. I still have that memory, the fresh flavors, and because I grew up at a farm in
Yeah.
Dehradun,
Okay.
so everything was available, kind of.
Fresh
So we used to
ingredients.
grow fresh ingredients. Like we had a lot of fruits in the backyard. Lychee, I used to love
Yeah,
lychee. Like
Dehradun is famous for its lychee. Yeah.
cheese. And we had like a couple of varieties of mangoes in the backyard and 16 varieties of citrus. That was something my
Wow.
grandfather was obsessed with citrus fruits. So I don't know if you know, like there are a lot of citrus fruits that are native to the foothills of the Himalayan mountains.
Yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
citrus
Yeah.
fruits, yeah. So we used to grow a lot of citrus fruits, and so it was fun, like making chutneys from the fresh, like cilantro that is going in the backyard, green
Yeah.
chilies, or like the mango for that matter, raw mango, basically the young ones.
Yeah.
The chutney was like a little sour and sweet with a lot of mint in it. So that was like humble beginnings, like baby steps towards cooking. I think it was the spark was from my grandmother for sure.
Yeah.
But like when I was thrown into the kitchens at the very early stage with by helping my father, you know, it was it was okay. I was not fascinated by it, like because I was too young to understand all that. But
Yeah.
I had a little spark in me. But I think when I turned 13 or 14, that was the time, like when I started enjoying it more. I was very much attracted towards the fire as an element in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, and now I realize why I was attracted towards fire, because I chose the hot kitchen
The hot kitchen.
later on, later on, right, in my career. So yeah, that was the humble beginning, like making small little things. I don't know if you know chakotra.
Chakotra. Yeah. We
Yes,
had them
it's a
growing in our
pomelo.
school in the back. In the back in our school,
Exactly.
we
Yeah,
were.
yeah, yeah. So it's basically a winter pomelo. So, like I have such fond memories like after our lunch. So I will see my mother or my grandmother on a silbatta making this haranamak. Or it's called the green chili salt. So it's like green
Okay.
chilies, like cumin in it, like black pepper, like even the garlic from the fresh garlic from the garden, and like just crush everything and then put some salt, and then they will take all the meat of the pomelo and then mix all that with it, and then sprinkle some sugar on top. And like the cups were made from the flesh.
Of the.
When you remove the flesh of that,
Yeah.
it was such amazing fun while growing up. I have those memories are so fresh in my head still. I think those are small little things that I
Little
grew
things.
up
Yeah.
eating, like, and then really like put a spark in me that, okay, this is what I really want to do in the future.
So that's one characteristic of Indian food. And in a previous episode, I talked to Professor Dr. Lizzie Collingham from Cambridge, and she'd done a lot of research on Indian food, and she from her personal experience, was talking about how the Indians will keep every few miles, they will talk about how something is made very uniquely just in their home, or they can't taste the flavor. There's a difference between, you've talked about the silbatta a lot of times, right?
Yes.
Silbatta is like a stone slab, and then you have another smaller
Yes.
stone and you crush food. And I have aunts and grandparents, etc., who will be able to differentiate between the food on a silbatta versus if it's crushed in a mortar and
Yeah.
pestle, which is also stone, or if it is
Yes.
grated, and it must be done
Yeah.
one way or the other based on the recipe. So everyone
Yes.
becomes very finicky. And Lizzie talked about that obsession, and where she says she's not able to discern it. And that takes me to the fact that, Indian food in the West has a very stereotyped image, or has so far.
Oh yeah.
And even when I came to and particularly in America, because I think the relationship between India and America is more recent. I mean, till 1965 Immigration Act, you had like 3,000 men from Punjab and California, and there was this whole Hindu
Yes.
Mexican cuisine that came, all that sort of then shrunk back to that corner of the world. It was really after 1965 that Indians started coming in, but they were normally nurses, doctors, engineers, and
Yes.
hotel owners. And food really came much later, again with the same Silhati sailors who are now, part of Bangladesh, replicating the format of
Yes.
what are considered Indian curry houses in England.
Yes.
But the point is,
Yes.
people get introduced to the Indian cuisine like that, and every dish on that, it gives you the perception of a pan Indian cuisine, which doesn't exist, right? We back home in India, we don't eat that mix of things on a plate. Our restaurant food, I mean, chicken tikka
Exactly.
masala is created in UK. It's not even
Yes.
Indian. And to me, some of it was very perplexing when I came here. But I suddenly see, and of course, the look and feel also, right? It was inspired by the Raj. You did not see upscale
Yeah.
restaurants. Now,
Yes.
restaurants like Musafir, in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years, I'm starting to see that's changing. There are more upscale restaurants that want to present the cuisine differently, and they will always, and there are regional cuisines coming up as well. Musafir is one of those, I mean, which is got a Michelin star way before you heard of Indian restaurants. It was rare. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what is the concept behind Musafir? What got you thinking about that? And how do you hope? What is it that you're hoping to create in the restaurant for the someone who's
Absolutely.
going there maybe for the first time?
Absolutely. I think you really touched the point, like, stereotyping Indian food. That was definitely there. I remember when I came to United States in 2017, it was a combined dream, Shami and Mithu, the founders of Musafir and me, that we have to bring the authentic cuisine of India. But the philosophy was always that, it should satisfy all your five senses.
Got it.
Not only just the food tastes good, but, also the appeal of the food, because you eat with your eyes, right? And then, it's not, it doesn't end there because, if you see the name Musafir came from the journey that I did,
Musafir means
it was a
traveler.
100-day journey, means a traveler. So I did a journey to all 29 states of India. The idea was to bring these recipes that are lost in time, bringing these regional cuisine, then subdivisions of these cuisine that used to exist for so many years. There's so many different tribes that you see in the northern eastern part of India. We often don't talk about that much. So I also call it like unsung recipes from that part. Like it's kind of lost in time, but still exist in these families, and very small population, very small tribe that are still practicing it. Still, they are in a hope that somebody will take it forward. So the idea of this journey was to bring all these forgotten recipes and celebrate entire India under one roof, because there are so many different cultures that live together. There's so many different religions. It's like, as I said, it's like part cultures, subdivisions. It's just a lot happening in the country. It's not only about like 29 states, 29 cuisine. It's more than in some states. If you go, there are like 10 cuisines, 15 cuisines in one single state. And as we are learning more every single day, we are finding more cuisines that still exist, and it is practiced by smaller communities. So it was very simple. We'll take these recipes, we will work on these, like make it looks really beautiful, but we will never compromise on the flavor profile, because the soul of the Indian food is the flavor and the taste that comes from different spices, like like bringing it all together. It is often confusing for like a lot of other different cuisines when they see like how many different layers we put in a one single dish. But that is the soul of the food, so why not to celebrate it? Then, as I said, the vision was important. Then the textures in the food, sometimes food textures can be very monotonous, like you have to break the monotony
Yeah.
somewhere, put different textures so that it's more enjoyable, and then you hear that sound when you snap into something, that makes food more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was purposely, we thought that we have to put different textures in the food. And then, like, we don't stop there. The
Yeah. Decor,
storytelling is
decor of
such
the
an
restaurant.
important
Yeah.
part.
I said the
100%.
decor of the
And then
restaurant. Yeah.
oh, yes, absolutely. We wanted to celebrate the different art forms of India, different artisans of India. And if that's the reason, if you see Musafir, every Musafir we built, it's about like different rooms and taking inspiration from different art forms of India. And then storytelling is such an important part of our culture. Like if you see kathas that you generally, you've heard about it. So I think the folk narratives that you have in India. So I think the storytelling is such an integral part of Musafir as well, because we share stories from the past, we share stories from our journey, and how we bridge this gap of the past to the present, and then navigating into the future. I think that's what Musafir is all about. And then we have to tickle the sixth sense of the diner. How do you do that? You make a connection with the diner. A lot of times people don't want that stiff style of service where, like, the waiters or the server, they don't even smile.
Yeah.
I think gone are those days. People want like approachable service where it's more comfortable. They connect
Interactive.
with the servers, very interactive. I think the people need that comfort. People want to enjoy food. I think that's what Musafir bridges the gap, where the storytelling plays a very important role. That is a sixth sense, that we tickle the sixth sense of the diners, connect them, connect the diners with the server or the brand or the chef. It's just making this nice connection, touching their heart. As you see, all the five senses are here.
Yeah. Even the way the
What
food is
connects the lower
presented.
body?
Yeah. I said even the way
Exactly.
it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yes. How this part of the body connects to other part of the body is the heart. All the five senses are here, right? You have to tickle the sixth sense of the diner. That is very important. And you will be surprised, like, I know we do it like unknowingly, and then because we live in this like age of we see everything through the lens. There is a new sense that I've developed. You feed your phone first. So the food, so, like, if you don't get the right photo of the food,
Yeah.
I've seen people not panicking, but they will take like different angles. They try to take the best picture. And, once they are satisfied with the picture, the oxytocin, there is a study to back it up. Like, it produces oxytocin in your body when you get the right picture. This is the age we are
Wow.
living in right now.
Yeah.
So it is something that is a new sense that is out now. You feed your phone first. So
Yeah.
you're always looking through the lens.
Food is another sense. I mean, the phone needs to be
Absolutely.
happy with the food as well.
Absolutely.
But so tell us about this 100-day journey, right? What was, you set out to discover these recipes? Were you surprised by something? Because many of us, we stay localized in our experience of food, what's made at home, my grandmother's recipe, this one's recipe, and a few things that, more mainstream food that's available that you can order home is also of a certain type, right? It's also limited and it's more recent. So when you set out on the journey, what were the surprising things that you weren't expecting to find in being cooked in India?
So I think the most surprising part was because when I went to Nagaland
Yeah.
specifically, so there is like 16 or 17 different tribes in Nagaland. So when I went there, I was having a session with a home cook. And the first thing they served me was the silkworms. It was like fried silkworms, yes, and with a rice beer that they make at home. It was in a vessel that was made from the bamboo, right?
Yeah.
And they said that this is something that we start with. And so when they sprinkle some like salt and chili on top to make it a little flavorful. So I tried it. So I'm very adventurous, like,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
tell you. I had to try it, I have to respect the traditions and the culture. So I tried two or three. I think the texture I did not like, but it was fine.
Yeah.
It was not bad. It was like a little slimy inside, very like something like gooey, slimy, and inside, and then it was like crispy on outside.
But
So
it's almost
this is how
sounding
I'll
like my
describe you.
it's sounding like my experience with escargot the first time. It was so hyped, but when it was chewy. It was really the
Yeah.
pesto I was tasting that it was in. But
Yes.
it's what you get used to, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like the next time when I had another session in Nagaland, I think I started liking it later. But in the beginning, I did not like
Required.
the the texture, and it's such an acquired thing, right?
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
dog meat is very prominent in Nagaland. They still eat it. Like some of the tribes, it's a delicacy. They stuff the dog with like flavored rice, and then then they carve it. So it's something that is still exists in some tribes in Nagaland.
So that actually that's a okay. So that takes me to the question on this myth about Indian vegetarianism. And why I want to talk about that is it's not that there isn't a large percentage of population that's vegetarian, unlike many other parents, but it's more complicated. It's not as simple as I don't eat meat. It's there was a time when the term Hindu was not tied to a religion. It was the term used for people on a certain side of the Indus River. And the Hindus there, we had Ayurveda, we had a way of living that was
Oh
prescribed
yes,
through certain scriptures, etc. And the caste system definitely existed, which tied you to certain roles in society, rightfully or wrongfully. But food also was prescribed. And again, it gets complicated because you might have Kshatriya, the warriors that eat meat. Till now, Rajputs have a very robust cuisine which has, dishes like lal mas at the center of it. But there's
yeah.
geography because you might have Pandits or Brahmins. For them, you would assume they cannot touch anything that's meat, and yet in Kashmir, they will eat meat. Bengali cuisine is centered around fish. So, can you talk a little bit about that? Now you're talking about, cuisines in Nagaland that have survived. There's dog meat, there's silkworms, and, you know, so can you talk a little bit about that? Like how complicated the relationship is with meat, and it could be tied to religion. Parsis have their own cuisine. Muslims will not eat pork. We have the second largest population of Muslims, and then we don't eat beef. But that's also something that I believe wasn't there in the past in, say, first century AD scriptures, etc.
Yes. So, like to throw more light on it, there are like so many questions. It's also about the Hindu. I think let's start with something very specific that is more to do with the community eating, like how to
Yeah,
differentiate between like different religions in India, number one, and then different Brahmins in India. I think
yeah.
that is another. So yeah, it's more complicated, right? That's exactly what makes Indian food it has like it gives it a very strong identity, and
Hmm.
it's so fascinating that in a country which has so many religions under one roof, we have like climates that are changing, we have like different languages that are spoken, different dialects that are spoken in India, the history living on top of each other. No single rule survives, in the context of like with reality there is everything that is changing. So we have given a tag it, okay, Hindu is equal to like vegetarian food, right? Or like Muslims is equal to like no pork, beef, something like that, right? We have given different tags. The more you travel for like 500 kilometers in India,
Yeah,
everything will change.
yeah, yeah.
Everything will change. I'll give an example.
Because everything is an
Let's talk
exception,
about
right? There's everything is an exception too. But
yes, yes,
Pandits in Kashmir will eat meat, or
yes,
so and so will eat, but
exactly.
these people do, and
Exactly. It's just like just you have to travel in India and you'll get to know. Like Muslims, like the best examples. They say halal meat. Of course, we get it. No pork. Absolutely got it. But beef is common.
yeah,
People don't think that beef is common in India, but you have to see beef is very common in India in specific community. And then if you go to Hyderabad, 100%. You have to go to Bengal, 100%. You have to go to Kerala,
Kerala,
100%.
yeah,
You will find beef eating culture very prominent here. But at the same time, how a Bhori Muslim will eat and prepare beef is very different from a Mapla Muslim in Malabar coast
yeah, yeah.
in Kerala.
Hmm.
You see the quite a
Correct.
significant difference how
Because
they
it's
eat, how they
geography, right?
prepare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
I said it's geography
yeah,
and the ingredients that are
it's the
available and the
geography,
history.
and yeah, like
Yeah,
absolutely. Then the Hindus, right? It's like very stereotype. It's all vegetarian, but that's not true. You
yeah,
know, you have to like literally see like how Hindus eat. Like let's say Bengali, a Bengali Hindu will fight with a Bengali Muslim for the last piece of hilsa
yeah, yeah,
because they love their fish.
yeah. They love it.
It's so prominent, right, in their culture, like fish eating culture. Specifically, if you go to Bengal, it's such a big culture there,
Yeah,
right? But I also want to talk about like Sikhs in general.
yeah,
if you see, Sikhs will not eat anything that is halal, that is by, halal, or like they will do the jhatka is fine for them because they don't believe in religious practices like, or in the name of God, if you're slaughtering an animal, they don't believe in it, right? So they will avoid it. But in general, now there are like pseudos everywhere. Everybody is trying to adapt to certain things. But at the same time, if you go to their temple, specifically gurdwaras, they do langars. It's all
Yeah, yeah.
vegetarian.
Social
It's not
service.
because they practice vegetarianism, it's because they believe in giving people, right?
Community, yeah.
And
Community.
langar is a community building,
And the
and
concept of a
vegetarian
sangha
is the
chula,
spam.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then langar is basically has to be vegetarian because so that everybody can eat.
Yeah,
That is the whole point of making it vegetarian. It's not because of the religion. Jains on the other side. So Jain on the other side, they are very strict
yeah,
because first of all, they're not eating any meat. There are no eggs, no honey, no fungus, so no root vegetables, right? But they have their own beautiful universe. Like how they have like nailed it down. Like okay, we don't have garlic and onion, but they have asafoetida.
yeah,
They have hing.
yeah,
Like they have certain things like they have nailed it, like how to make, and their cuisine is very superior, I would say, Jain cuisine.
yeah.
After so many restrictions, their food is so delicious.
I
It's
agree.
just
I
like
agree.
how they make it so delicious. Buddhism on the other side is like mostly vegetarian because they believe in non like
Non-violence. Yeah,
a
yeah.
non-violence basically, right? And then Parsis, as you said, it's a very
It's an
I don't know if
Irani
you know, like
influence, right? From their roots of
Iranian
having left
influence,
Iran.
right?
Yeah,
Like salli boti, dhansak. Dhansak is a dish I would definitely want to talk about it. How this dish came into the picture. So basically, it was they entered through Gujarat, right? The Zoroastrians, when they came in, they entered through Gujarat. And when they came in, they were living, and then at that point of time, like in Gujarat, most of the population was vegetarian. So, they were living in the vegetarian households because the house owners were vegetarian, all Gujaratis, right? So they used to hide their meat under lentils and vegetables to cook their meat so that the house owner would never know what they were cooking. So this is how dhansag was like came into the picture. They were hiding everything. If you see patrani machi,
yeah.
it is also like a fish wrapped in a banana. They were
Banana
hiding
leaf
most
is
of their
yes.
non-vegetarian stuff. They have created a whole new cuisine
Oh,
by like
hidden.
hiding different meat items like under certain things. So it's a very interesting way, like how the entire cuisine developed, right? And then the Christians specifically. If you go to Goa, we have Goan Catholics,
Goan
and
cuisine is
also
such
because
a
the huge
distinct cuisine.
influence.
Yeah. But Goa had a
Yes,
Portuguese influence for so long, like till the late 1960s, that it's a cuisine of its
yes,
own.
it's cuisine of its own because you have to also realize like the pork eating culture is so big.
Yeah.
Imagine at a coastal belt of India, you eating pork. So it is because of the colonization that
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
It also history plays a very important role. But on the other side, if you see the Syrian Christian, they will eat differently,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If you see the Goan Catholics or the Christians, you will see more offal dishes cooked with the pork blood, like sarpotel that you see, like or like a lot of seafood preparations as well. But on the other side, if you go specifically to Kerala, the Syrian Christian people, they
Yeah.
make this dish called ishtu.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
like not
Love
stew,
it.
they call it ishtu. It's basically like beef, chicken or meat, like, and then they'll eat with the appams. So they also adapted in the Kerala culture very well.
Yeah.
And then this is what geography and history combining together does to you. And
And
that's what I really like. And the Kashmiri Pandits, sorry, I
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
talk
No,
about
no,
the Pandits
yes,
because
please.
that is the most interesting part, right? So in the name suggests is the Pandits. So you automatically,
Say
it's
they're
registered in your
Brahmins.
head, they
Yeah.
are vegetarians, right? But that's not the case. For Shivratri, Kashmiri Pandits will offer meat to the god.
To the gods. Yeah.
It's something that we don't see it, but also like if you see their Vazwan, their style of Vazwan, there's a lot of meat dishes. You see the mutton Rogan Josh, you'll see the yakhnis, that when gushtaba, the meatballs that you're making. So there's so much in their culture that defines that, okay, are they Hindu or they're not Hindu? Then you question it. But that's what I'm saying. It's also because of the geography of that place, because it's so cold out there. So people tend to eat meat because it's extremely cold. And then, 6 months you don't have those fresh vegetables. So you have to rely on something that is meat eating culture. It also warms your body. So I think that is something very clearly seen in the Indian cuisine. The more you travel, more like
All the
find.
myths gets busted, right?
Yes, and
All your myths
and
get.
also saying like it's not confusing. That's why it's not confusing at all. That's what I see India refusing to be simplified. They don't want to be simplified. They're refusing it. We don't want to be simplified. This is how we are. And, and the refusal is exactly what keeps our culture, food alive. And surprisingly, it's impossible to pin it down.
Yeah.
People are trying to, every chef is trying, people are making these journeys in India. It's very impossible to pin it down because also there is evolution that is happening with the food, right?
Even
So that's what I said. People can label it Hindu is equal to veg, Muslim is equal to meat, whatever, but it will go in 5 minutes more you travel in India.
And there's, like you talked about evolution, there was also the impact of the British, because British at one point, when the power moved from the East India Company, I mean, till they were with the East India Company, they were celebrating and integrating and, eating the way the Indians ate. But when the whole imperialism came in and everything moved under the crown, there was a whole emphasis on, establishing their British ways of how we eat and how we behave, etc. And an aspect of that was we eat meat, therefore we are strong and you're weak. And that also got a lot of communities, especially in Bengal, etc., to start eating meat. And the men did it more. And therefore, they were the ones who were stepping out. They were the ones who were eating and dining with the colonizers. They were the ones who had probably government jobs, etc. And you see, again, I find that in most of these communities that we've talked about, the men are the ones who start eating meat in communities that are traditionally seen as vegetarian, because sometimes
Absolutely.
it's not being cooked. Like, my mother is vegetarian, and initially when we grew up, my father was happy to introduce us to meat, but it would be outside, then it would be brought in,
Mhm.
and now there's separate dishes to cook it, separate utensils to cook it, and yet it just keeps evolving and
Yeah.
becoming more and more okay till my kids go there
Yeah.
and say, oh, Nani, come on. So now you have to, so it's just changing. And I mean, I think the uncertainty that you talked about, the complexity of India, one of the things is, if you grew up in India, you're used to the fact that everything will have an exception. It doesn't surprise you, right? So you don't
Yes.
really say, oh, you're
Absolutely.
this. If somebody just comes to you and says, hey, I'm this, I'm from here, but we eat things like that, you don't react, because that exception is the norm to everything. Oh,
Yes.
my grandmother made it this way, and that's how it's made. And, we don't put this addition, ingredient in that. That is the normal way of doing it. To expect a standardized recipe is what's ridiculous, always.
Oh, yes.
When
Absolutely.
people
Every
start banning
family.
pickles, right? I just keep thinking, oh, but they've got, oh, yeah, but my grandmother makes it this way. I feel uncomfortable if, say, I mean, Fab India is preserving some recipes of pickle, but I just keep thinking, oh, but they're just going to make it one way. Aam ka achar is made as many different ways as when you get it, depends on whose house you're getting it from. And it's nothing to do with religion. It's just, or anything. Like,
Absolutely.
your neighbor's aam ka pickle will be different from your pickle and the next neighbor's pickle, and, so on. So
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of that. And I was also
I
reading
also think like,
Go on.
yes.
Yeah. No,
I
I was
also
just
think
saying,
like
when you
people
talked
also,
about exotic recipes, I also
yes,
came across
yes, yes,
recipes in this 20th century manuscript of the Manas Sollas, where the kings,
yes.
there were recipes around black rats and two different ways to bake it, and it was a delicacy. Then I dug more and I came across cats, peacocks, iguanas. If my grandmother or my mother was, they have a certain sense of identity. We are this. We are these kind of people. We don't eat this. Anything that they are not okay with, somebody else does it. But if you were to tell them that, look, it's just an evolution, I'm just pushing the boundaries of what is authentic.
Of
We
course.
develop
Yeah.
amnesia, right? Because our sense of identity is changing.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the reasons that geography plays in, or history plays in, and you start forgetting that we used to eat like this as a society. And in some places it's continued, and you've encountered those. Have you looked at reviving some of those recipes?
Yes. 100%. I'll tell you more about it. Like, exactly what you said. What I think is like identities are never frozen in time.
Yes, and
Never.
they evolve. Yeah,
It is something because they shift.
yeah,
They absorb the foreign like elements. They absorb the the forgotten like inconvenient parts of the past. Then at the same time, they want to preserve something that is new to them, right? And they want to pass on to the next generation at the
yeah,
same time. But what is happening in this is like food is winning. The
yeah, yeah,
culture
yeah,
is
yeah.
winning all the time,
Food
right?
is gaining and winning.
And yes, exactly. I think that's what I said. It's identities that people say, okay, this is our identity. These are never frozen in time. It's keep changing. We have seen it. That the moment you talked about
Manasulas.
Manasalas, it's hard to pronounce that, right? But I know about it because it's the 12th century. I know it's a 12th century
King
king that was
Someshwar the third. I
Chalukya.
think it's
Chalukya.
Yeah.
Chalukya. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he was three. I remember because I've I read a lot of history. I remember. Yes. So it was a Sanskrit text, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
He also described a lot of about the even the crab recipes are there.
Okay.
You know, you said iguanas and everything.
Peacock.
Even some
I've
of the
come across
crab
cat and
recipes, peacocks
sparrow.
are there. Yes, exactly. Like they were like tortoise and stuff like that. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is what it was. But the shift happened because also there was a shift in power in the history of India that you saw. A lot of things were changing. It was ever evolving. And then like it was the whole decay. I would say 200 years that food was like that, and then it kept shifting because now we are heading towards the 15th century when the colonial powers from Europe came to India.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even they brought so much, like
Red chili
chilies, like
powder.
how
Red chili powder.
we
I mean,
think
that is
chilies.
red
Yes.
chilies, right?
So we never had chilies in India.
Exactly.
It
Yeah.
was brought by the Portuguese to India in the 15th century, but we don't
Potatoes
realize how the Portuguese got the chilies. So
from
they
Mexico.
got the chilies from Brazil. No, they got the chilies from Brazil because they were colonizing Brazil, and the Brazilians got the chilies from Mexico because it's because of proximity. But Mexico, people still think, oh, you know what? Like, think that the chilies are native to Mexico, but it's not true.
Wow.
So chilies are, yeah. So like you'll be surprised. It used to grow in the wild in Bolivia, and it were the migratory birds who pooped actually in Mexico, and it was the Aztecs civilization, right? They were the first one to start the cultivation of the chilies. So it's a long journey and now India is the largest producer of chilies in the world.
And
It's
I'm
just
assuming
450 years
consumption
old.
also. Yeah.
Yes, the biggest consumption, and we are the largest producers of the chili in the world. For that matter, we never had potatoes. It's a very new thing. We
Potatoes. Yeah.
never had beans. We never
Tomatoes.
had corn.
Yeah.
We never had corn. We never had tomatoes. Now it looks so us. Like we think like we cannot imagine a dish without all these basic ingredients because we think this is our word, but it was never. This is the beauty of India.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We adopt, like we adopt all the foreign elements or ingredients, make it our own. We make with our own identity with those ingredients, and then we pass on to the next generation.
Yeah.
But you have to realize this next generation, like me, now I've stepped foot in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of creating boundaries, I'm creating bridges
Yeah.
between different cultures.
Yeah.
We are creating the best example is the green butter chicken that we serve in Musafir.
You've
So it
shared the
is the
recipe with me.
tamatios.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
It is the tamatios that is found abundance in Texas, and we wanted to incorporate something local.
Yeah.
That's what we did, and we incorporated some local ingredient like green tomatoes and made our own butter chicken.
Yeah.
And it is tart, it is sweet at the same time, and it is also tastes like a butter chicken.
Yeah.
But if you have to give it an identity, I would say, as you said, authenticity is that word is very subjective.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Depends on how
the
far
red
you're going, right? To make
exactly.
something
So it is
authentic.
very subjective. The word is very subjective, right?
Yeah.
So I would still say when people will start making this butter chicken in the household, it's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
People will make green butter chicken at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now this butter chicken will be Indian dish created in America, like chicken tikka masala was
Masala.
created in London. It is the London recipe, and green butter chicken will always be American recipe,
Yeah.
but created by an Indian chef.
Yeah.
Like
And butter chicken
according.
itself, right, came from 1940s. I believe the whole
Yes.
tandoori culture with partition. There was a whole lot of
Yes.
Hindu Indians who moved from what became Pakistan to Delhi. They were in, so Moti Mahal and restaurants like that came, and there was a
Yes,
whole Delhi cuisine that started. And butter chicken came out of that.
exactly.
So, and we again identify with things that authenticity is so short lived. It hasn't been, these recipes haven't been around for even 100 years.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. As I said, like as the word authentic is very subjective,
Yeah.
however you want to play it, like however you feel with it,
Yeah.
however you resonate with the word, it's totally up to you. And there is no wrong and right in
There
authenticity.
isn't. You got to let it flow.
There is no.
Yeah.
You have to let
When
it
you
flow.
were talking
Absolutely.
about the bridge, one aspect I was also thinking, my kids are born and raised here, but they've grown up spending their summers in India. So they've got, yeah, they see India from the inside, it's 3 months of the year with grandparents, etc. But I see a lot of others who are growing up here, and the Indian restaurants that we started the conversation with on Lexington, etc., they would eat and they would go home and eat something else, which was local food with the restrictions of the local ingredients that they would eat at home. And there was a disconnect, right? And they wouldn't
Yes.
understand why the restaurant food was different, the home food was different. And but I feel like recently, a lot of them are taking pride in the Indian cuisine, trying to understand it better. And I'm seeing a lot of Indian food based businesses from second generations Indians that are made here, looking for
Mhm.
what they see as authentic Indian cuisines, trying to bring it, package it the way Americans understand it. So maybe they're the insiders, and I find that very exciting as well because it's happening in parallel, and the experiments there as well.
Exactly.
So it's going to take the cuisine further, like you said.
See, it's only the win for the cuisine. I always say
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a win-win for the cuisine. The more visibility of the cuisine, more restaurant open. That's what I always say. I think the more Indian restaurant come into the picture, more regional based cuisines coming into the picture. I think it's very important for the generation, for my kids who are
yeah,
growing up here. It's so important for them to see,
yeah, yeah,
and like also like one day, everybody, we will find their identity. It's what you eat. It is
yeah.
absolutely what you eat. That's what
Wow, what
you
you
yeah,
eat.
that is your, yeah, exactly, you are what you eat. This is how I say it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My one other thing. So you talked about your grandmother being an initial
Yes.
influence. While your father had the catering business, so you had men associated with cooking in your family because of the business. But the traditional realm of cooking is, associated with women. Maybe because it's within the four walls of the house. But you don't see as many cooks or women in the hospitality industry that are very prominent. I mean, one reason, of course, that is that, it's the traditionally it's anything that's outside the house as the role of a bread earner is where you don't see them. But even in modern day, why do you think that is? You don't see too many accomplished chefs that are women or are able to break through that glass ceiling.
I think we're definitely seeing a shift right now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of women chefs that are coming forward. We have seen Chef Garima Rodaj, that she's from the restaurant guy in Bangkok. She was the first Indian woman to win 2 Michelin stars for a
Oh, wow.
restaurant. Yes, and there are a lot of female chefs in India that we see right now. They're coming forward, bringing their identity, bringing their food culture, in the mainstream. I think that we definitely see a sudden shift right now, and it's gonna only benefit the chef brigade. I would say the chef clan. Like we're
Yeah.
increasing it. More women, I think, come into the picture. I think more warmth in the food. That's what I see. Because like I would prefer any day more women in my kitchen than men, because I've seen, like, because when I see my mother,
Yeah.
I always take my example of my mother or my wife here, selflessly doing so much every single day, and they're so organized. That's what I see in the women, because I have a lot of women chef in my kitchen, at least like 6 or 7. I still know that the ratio is lesser, like 60% male and 40% women in the kitchen. But I still see, like, when I see the level of commitment, it's on a different level.
So
And I think
what's food for you at home? Like is who controls the kitchen now
so.
after you're
Of
married?
course, that's my wife. Only on my off day I control it, or somebody coming home, I cook the food. Otherwise, total control is with my wife. And she's an excellent cook because we went to the same school.
Ah, okay. So you're
We
not
we went to the
criticizing
same.
her constantly or telling her I would have done this or I would have put some different
Never.
ingredients.
So, like, you will not believe, at home,
Yeah,
I eat whatever is available.
yeah.
Believe me, I never criticize at home. This is me. I'm very happy with my dal chawal, rajma chawal, kadi chawal. This is what I really like eating at home.
That's our
Very
comfort
simple
food as well.
food, very comforting, and I prefer that on my even my holidays. But the kids, I think because their palate is more refined and more developed according to ours when we were at their age.
Yeah,
So I see, like, definitely we're cooking Japanese someday, and like someday I'm cooking Thai for them, or Indo-Chinese, or like Italian, and this is what they like. They want different cuisines. They don't want to eat Indian food every single day.
I agree. Yeah.
That's what I've seen, and then I think it's fine. We have developed our own Japanese, Indo-Japanese recipes at home. We have developed our own Indo-Thai recipes at home just for the kids,
Yeah.
and I think this is something that will carry on. And then My wife has some own like Indian Mexican tacos that she make at home. They're really good.
Yeah.
But I think like, but kids love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But kids love it. Yeah,
So
I
that's
think
the
this
next
is
step for the cuisine, right? That's how it's evolving. And at some stage, we'll talk about it as a step in that journey of how the food has
yeah,
evolved. A whole generation of kids that
100%.
have grown up like this, right? Um, so what's
Absolutely.
next for Musafir and what's next for you? Because I know you're always doing lots of other things on the side as well.
Yes, yes, yes. So we are on the verge of opening a new concept. It is basically like a chef tasting studio. It'll be like 15 to 20 course meal. It is something that I've done this journey for last 7.5 years. I've dedicated a lot of my time in this journey, and this is something that I'm really proud of, and my team is very proud of. Shami and Mittu are very proud of. So this is something that is the next step, and then we want to open more Musafir, more concepts, a different footprint in different cities across the world, not only just in United States, but across the world. But definitely, like a lot of great projects are in the pipeline for Musafir. And then, as you know, we have a new brand called Saki. Saki is more like a cellar bar. It is very craft cocktail bar. It's also celebrates a different artisans of India from different state with different cocktails. So every cocktail is dedicated to a specific art form of a certain state in India. It is also something that is very unique that we have done. But yeah, we have so many unique projects coming up. So yeah, you will see a lot of growth from Musafir, and you will see like we are opening different footprints across the globe. So that's what the plan is. We're going more global, not just
So I
America.
look forward to that. I went to Musafir first in Houston, and I'm happy that I got to, experience it here in New
Yeah,
York. So we look forward to more from you and more from Musafir. Thank you so
100%.
much
Yeah.
for coming on this. It was a really, really fun chat, and we'll probably do it again soon, Mang.
100%. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Neha. It was so much fun. I enjoyed it. Believe me, I was
Absolutely.
able to like refresh all that history.
Yeah.
I can talk about history all day long, but I definitely see that the time limit is number one, and and then the content has to be engaging at the same time. So I get it.